All right. Hey, good morning, YouTube. How you doing? Hope everybody's doing good out there. Hope you've dried out if you're out east that way. Flooding everywhere, it seems like. A little bit of this and that. And then you see it hitting the central U.S. there. Right over Arkansas and Missouri, it looks like. We had a touch of rain yesterday afternoon around here. And it looks like sporadic showers are hitting Northern California. Hopefully that helps out some of the fire situation over there. We'll hit that up here in a little bit. But yeah, good day, midweek. Hope everybody's doing good. Let's kick it in gear here and see what's going on. Hey, good morning, Barry. How's it going? You got haze as well. Hot and hazy. It has not been terribly hot here. I don't think we broke 95 yesterday. Maybe we did. I don't know. But it was that rain yesterday evening. Well, I wouldn't call it a rain. It was a sprinkle. it rained just enough to get everything wet yesterday evening, and it I think it cooled it off quite well around here. M Long's with us. It looks like the monsoon is hitting Arizona pretty heavy right now. So watch out for the flash flooding and stuff in those areas. Southern Nevada, Arizona, etc. will always be a concern. We need that much rain all at once. So, speaking of the fires, that's the first update. Just brutal. As it continues, a fire started in Glacier National Park as well. Not giving them any slack or any let up on the firefighting front. Let's check out this video.
In the ongoing wildfire disasters plaguing the West, another firefighter has died in Northern California. He was injured while working on the Mendocino Complex fire, which was the largest wildfire in California's history. And in Montana, a new wildfire in Glacier National Park forced evacuations. The Howe Ridge fire burned 1,500 acres in the popular tourist spot since it was sparked by lightning on Saturday. Park officials said that all structures on the north side of Lake McDonald in the park were lost, and it's continuing to spread. The Howe Ridge fire comes just as the National Park Service is reopening Yosemite National Park. Yosemite was affected by the Ferguson fire that has been burning for a month straight, forcing the park to close. The Ferguson fire is 86% contained. The fires have produced a massive amount of smoke that has stretched across much of the country. Images of a bright red sun Monday from Atlanta to Wisconsin can be attributed to the smoke, and poor air quality is expected to drift south and eastward as the wildfires continue.
So yes, some of you were taking that red sky at night thing literally. That's from the wildfire smoke. It looks like even out east, and as far north up to Wisconsin and everywhere. It's obviously pretty bad, as you could see in kind of that graphic. The smoke, just California is covering the country in smoke, almost literally, and you got additional fires not helping the situation. Like she said, she mentioned the Glacier National Park lightning strike caused fire, but that Yosemite fire is well under control, and our amount of smoke in our area has greatly been reduced. Maybe it's because of the weather pattern, because like I said, it has been cooler, so maybe that pushed the smoke south of us, but it's been noticeably different this week, since Monday, that we have a reprieve from our breathing situation, so that's been good for us. Hopefully you all folks to the east don't get the breathing problems, but you might get those red sunsets for quite a while. And we'll see what the cooling effect is of that as well. There are still more than 100 wildfires, large wildfires burning. In the link there's several pictures. That's the overhead of the Ferguson fire, but it's kind of hard to see. It looks like they have the smoke on the satellite image going almost due north, if I'm looking at that right. It's kind of an odd. It's not reaching up here though. Hey, good morning, Aaron Cox. How you doing? It looks like you're listening, not watching. It's all good. I will try to transcribe what I see on the screen well enough to get the understanding across. ZPD Survivals with us. Good morning, man. You've been putting out more videos than I have, ZPD. I think you're knocking it out. Yeah, Aaron, you guys in Arizona are definitely getting a lot of rain. The weather map shows it. It's definitely large amounts of rain down there in southern Nevada and North New Mexico as well. It looks like getting some pretty good rains. Just watch out for that flash flooding. And Castaway is with us. Good morning. How are things down there? How is your winter? Is your winter expected to be wet? Is that when you get the majority of your rain, or is it just cold? And by cold, what is your definition of cold? Like, do you guys expect to get a lot of below freezing temperatures? I guess you're coming into spring now too. It's like we're kind of rolling out of summer. Although technically, I guess summer's not over for like another whole month or more. I always consider September 1st to be the end of summer, but it's not technically, I guess. So that's the weather of the wildfires. A lot of them are getting a lot more under control, but still tons of smoke affecting the whole country. If you haven't noticed, which you probably have in one form or another. It's not your imagination that the smoke is affecting you even in your area. So that was the wildfire and smoke. Another this one's going to take some commentary here. This one's going to take a while. So you can find this story out there in many locations, but the New Mexico suspect, you can throw out so many things of this, and just on the evidence alone, the fact that they released these people on a bond is beyond concerning. So especially when we compare it to other cases of people who have done essentially nothing, I'm going to get into that. So this New Mexico case, whether terrorist camp or not, irrelevant. But let's look at what was found. 11 children suspected of being trained to commit some sort of violence. School shootings, and it's hard to say if that was the case, but at least some sort of violence against other people was definitely the case, right? And that's not even the worst of it. The worst of it, there was a body found on the compound. The remains of a dead child were found, and you let him out on bond. The Bundys didn't get offered any bond. They never harmed anybody. I follow these cases in Texas. Contempt of court gets you put in jail with extreme conditions put on your bond release. And the only rational thing that I see as the difference is if you stand up to the state, or if you have anything that has to do with resistance to the state, you'll be punished before you even get a chance to go to court, which is what those pretrial holding is basically a punishment in those cases where there's not even any property crime. There's not even any damage to property, nothing. Here, you can harm anybody you want. In this New Mexico case, the state is not a victim, so the judge doesn't care. And you can go out on bond, no problem. Is there any other difference? Since the state was not a part of the crime, it's all good. You can go home. That's the way I read it. But the judge not holding at least some of the more likely, the gentlemen in particular, the most likely to be the ones training and guilty of the murder of the one child, not holding them is like the most contemptible thing I think I can imagine as far as what a judge does. We thought Ann Navarro was bad. I can't remember those judges in Texas that with all those cases in that situation. How bad is that? And this lady releases these people. Beyond, I just can't fathom what was going through her mind, other than, well, if the victim's not the state, you can go on about your business. So as I say here, state prosecutors outlined evidence suggesting that at least some of the suspects could have been planning some sort of attack. Siraj Wahaj, who also faces child abduction charges from Georgia, two-time loser, also has charges from another state, and you're going to let him out on bond. So he's automatically a flight risk, right? I've said it yesterday. These people are 3-to-1 odds not to come to court. At least the males. I don't know about the females. 3-to-1 odds they never come back to hear this case. They're going to run. They've got connections. The guy's connected to the World Trade Center situations. They have connections. If they're not already under FBI protection, they're going to probably find it. It's my suspect, at least. Various weapons and ammo were found near the raid on August 3rd. Okay, whatever. Children allegedly taught. Okay, my kids can load rifles too. Big deal. The kids have been placed in protective custody of state welfare, that's probably the worst place for any kid, is under the state children's welfare system. I feel sorry for the kids in that whole deal. And what's interesting in this case is the FBI knew about this place and did nothing. Took the local sheriff to go in there and actually shut it down after the different rumors of different, especially if there's a dead child potentially there. But according to the FBI agent Taylor here, according to the interviews of the two teens, so the FBI gets inserts themselves after the fact. Yeah, I wonder why they inserted themselves after the fact. So there's rumors of exorcism and stuff, potentially why that one kid died. Everybody's probably heard this story in many different avenues the last couple days. Once you dug for it, because the mainstream doesn't want to cover it, and the few headlines they do have is just kids in the desert compound. They don't talk about anything else. I'd be hard pressed to believe that this guy wasn't under FBI protection. He was a character witness for the blind Sheikh Abdul Rahman. I mean, come on. If the FBI can follow me around wherever I go, I'm sure they'd be this guy's back pocket, if not giving him ideas on where to go. Ridiculous. Also has the senior Wahaj is also described as a Women's March founder, which just baffles the mind. And liberal Islamic activist Linda Sarsour as a mentor and an amazing man. So he's got ties to her. The Taos County Sheriff, Jerry Hagrafi, said that during the initial serving of the search warrant, tactical team came upon children holding boxes of ammo, and at least one child was armed when he was found. That's not really the most concerning thing. So when they're trying to get pretrial confinement, they're having to get evidence from the scene, so the sheriff's testifying during this whole thing to give the judge the ammo they need to keep these guys in detention pre-trial. But when cross-examining the sheriff, the suspect's defense attorney each took their chance to try and distance the suspects as far from the weapons as possible and the connotations of violence they imply. One defense attorney suggested it's prudent that children learn how to use firearms safely. Can't agree with that. Can't disagree with that at all. Sheriff also confirmed that ATF is investigating the legalities surrounding the occupant's possession of firearms. Pretty sure anything in the household belongs to the property owner when you have minors. I think that's the law in every state. Your children can shoot whatever weapons you have. That's irrelevant. That's not going to hold water if that's what they were trying to go after, that the kids actually had access. Another defense attorney pointed out, and the sheriff confirmed, that the compound's occupants did not shoot at the tactical team as they raided the compound, but that one gentleman did struggle and resist while being arrested by deputies. Irregardless of the situation of the arrest, the whole totality of the whole situation above that should have been grounds for detention, at least for the two males, in my opinion. You release the females to go take care of the kids, potentially, with the conditions of, pre-trial restrictions on different things. But man, just a prime example how screwed up the justice system is, the last lack of justice system. When you compare it to so many non-violent situations in America where people are held pre-trial for years. But the victims are different. The victims are people here, not the state. So the state doesn't care. That's the only judgment I can come to. Hey, good morning, Walter Davis. What's going on? Yeah. Walter says the FBI inserted themselves so they don't look like a bunch of paid off political hacks that do nothing but waste taxpayer money. Look, we did something. Right, Walter? Either that or they're trying to cover their tracks because this guy was on their payroll because they're trying to keep him under their thumb since he's got all these ties to different groups. That's just my conspiratorial mindset, but prove me wrong, right? But yeah, FBI is pretty much a waste. But I'm sure we'll see how this story be able to follow it, hopefully. The charges just on having the dead child on your property with suspicious causes. I mean, how far is that going to go down the rabbit trail on that? Just got to figure out that, I think they've already got some collaborative testimony from the kids on how the kid was killed, basically an exorcism ritual of some sort. But it is what it is. Hey, Locked and Loaded. What's up, Justin? Good morning. Hope you finished your coffee on your end of the country. Yeah, Walter, I think the Blind Sheikh was an American citizen, correct? And I think this is his cohorts. They're probably citizens as well. They're probably not green card holders. But maybe the Scotsman has heard. He's in that gun network. Hey, Scotsman, what's going on? Good morning. Have you heard about that New Mexico thing where they legally owned firearms, I guess you'd say? Not that I care much about legalities, but Walter brings up a good point. And you would think that right alone, the feds would take over the case, right, Walter? Because that would, I guess, it would depend on what kind and how many firearms were found, whether or not the feds would want to bring charges. But they didn't mention in here in the Zero Hedge article anything about federal charges or federal supposition of the whole situation. Hey, Scotsman, have a good day. Then getting ready for work. All right. Walter, dead kids have sunk political careers. Yeah, a lot of dead kids have also been swept under the rug too for political careers too. But we'll see what happens in this. This is just to see that they all got released on bail. When I don't know that if they've got as many connections in this situation as bad as it looks. I don't know that one or two of them will even show up for their final hearings or actual cases if it gets that far. Unless I don't know why the county would ask for a plea deal. The county DA should try to max these people, at least the one most involved in the death of the child, at least, you would think. But we'll see how soft they go on them because they feel sorry for them or something. There'll be some sob story come out at some point, I'm sure. So moving on to our favorite collapse of society example to use as our template for what could happen anywhere. So the estimate is that 2.3 million people have fled Venezuela during the crisis as a lack of food and severe shortages of medicine and other things have left thousands at risk. That was a UN spokesman quoted as. We've documented the Venezuelans, fleeing to Colombia, Brazil, the border conditions between Colombia and Venezuela. Colombia is working on shutting down much of their border areas. Same with Ecuador. This is a France article, France International News, it looks like. Main reason people are leaving Venezuela is lack of food. according to the UN spokeswoman, spokesman, spokeswoman, no, spokesman, Stefan. About 1.3 million Venezuelans are suffering from malnourishment. I'll bet they're eating donkeys and rats. I can't imagine they have much that they're able to grow. I wonder how they haven't talked much about. It's one thing that is missing from a lot of stories is what vegetables are they able to grow, what grains. They haven't really approached that. Talked about the variety of their diet or their food production. They haven't addressed that. It's mostly been only the animals that have been the concern. It's not that there's a drought condition or anything. It doesn't sound like. But that's one thing they haven't addressed is, hey, can they grow enough to? Are they growing things to? And the things they're growing, are they not getting ambushed on the way to market? We know there's been plenty of that going around where production shipments and convoys of resources and stuff are getting ambushed and hijacked and stuff before getting to whatever market they're headed to. Especially going from the countryside into towns. The cities are the biggest, sounds like still the biggest affected. Many diseases that are basically eradicated previously before the beginning of the collapse, measles, malaria, tuberculosis, and diphtheria have reappeared and are on the rise. And that that's something you definitely should suspect in any collapsing economy, as access to different, not only medicines, but vaccines for those diseases. The mitigation practices that go into the effect for the government services, they'll be reduced because of a collapsing economy wouldn't be in place. We have TB outbreaks all the time in the U.S. that get contained just simply because of the work and things that go into it. But if that ever became the case here, you'd have to think that would get out of control in a similar fashion. And while and malaria is probably the most serious of the ones on this list. I mean, measles is survivable. It affects kids very harshly and the elderly, like a lot of diseases do. But malaria is the one that sticks with you. It really messes you up, no matter who you are. But people are starving in Venezuela. No surprise to us. It's staying on the radar of most places now. Are starting to get a closer look at it. You can find it in a lot more news searches. It's not going well at all for them. So definitely keep your radar on there. And again, prime examples of what to expect should similar conditions arise anywhere near you. I mean, it's not a short leap to think that something similar could happen to Mexico, the effects it would then have on especially our southern border, and then bleed over, and the effects that, what's happening in California, refugees, everything else, how that can bleed over to adjacent states and everything else with, as we've talked about with Colombia, Ecuador, Guyana, stuff like that. Hey, what's up, Imlong? What you got here? A link here. Hey, Wes S. Good morning. How's it going? Let's see if I can open that up. Imlong, thanks. They grow a lot of sugarcane, you think, like Justin says? Yeah, Venezuela, we could look up their crop production or whatever. It'd be interesting to see what their main source of food is, but you got to figure in the countryside alone, they're a lot more in tune with making their own food, just like most second and third world countries. Oil, oil, oil. Made like a lot of money on oil and natural minerals, resources. Iron, oil, hydroelectric power, agriculture. Venezuela's main cash crop is coffee, which makes sense. Staple food crops are maize and rice. This is from Encyclopedia Britannica. Cropland is mostly in the northern mountains. Extensive cattle grazing is practiced, which we know is having problems right now. Bring that over. I'll put the link in the description box so everybody have the reference. So what's up with their corn and maize production, etc.? You'd have to wonder. They're probably not exporting very much. It also says rice, which is very water dependent. But again, it does seem that most of the starvation is in the cities where they're not able to get food shipments in from the countrysides as much. It's very sporadic. Less than 1/4 of the national territory is used for grazing or crop production. So that's some of the situation in Venezuela. Hey, Backwoods Law, good morning. How's it going? Seems like everybody back east is still getting plenty of wetness. All right, so moving on from Venezuela, I had one more. Well, here's M. Long's link he sent. Our worst nightmares are starting to take shape in reality. Well, that's always been the supposition, right, M. Long? I thought I had one other thing to bring up. New Mexico situation. That's South African links. Oh, in general, pretty much this Turkey lira crisis, along with Turkey sanctions or tariffs, is having some fairly significant effects on different economic indicators. I wasn't focusing on anything in general or specifically, but in general, this continues to affect things. You see the Dow's down 200 right now. They're saying it's over the Turkey situation. They can kind of make that up as they go along, but you see the bonds, 10-year bond below 2.85 now. Remember, we've been pushing 3 for a long time. The volatility in there is, again, the more these bonds stay under this amount, the higher inflation goes. That's the big concern there, is this low bond yields create inflation. Silver, 1454. Unreal. I did the calculation yesterday when silver was at 1498 or whatever, and gold was at 1200. That was an 80-to-1 ratio, which is unfathomable why the price would be so disconnected from the way silver and gold are ratioed in the ground, when they're produced. It's like a 15-to-1 ratio in those respects, but yet the price doesn't make sense. silver is not so plentiful as to be at that price ratio, I guess is what the point is. But this Turkey thing seemed to have wide-ranging effects, and the how this affects, like we talked about, the EU, the NATO situation is definitely something to keep track of. Could we see a potential Venezuela starting in Turkey, right there at the crossroads from Asia to Europe, where again that's a big conduit for Middle East refugee situation, as well as they're a military of fairly significant strength that when people go into those kind of crises can lash out pretty quick. Their neighbors, Syria, the Kurds, things like that could get ugly. But the thing that doesn't make sense is gold goes down when there's a crisis. That's just backwards. Gold is a safe haven. Gold would usually be being bought into, not collapsing as paper currencies collapse like the lira. But they're saying it's because of the strong dollar. Whatever. I don't know. Doesn't hold water in my mind. My logical mind can't make sense of that. But so that's the financial situation. That's most of it is tied to Turkey right now. At least they're saying. But Turkey is a very strategic location that could have many side effects. And tying into M. Long's link that he sent over. Okay, yeah, this will have to be our last one. Starting to take shape in reality. So this is Martin Armstrong Economics. The euros continued to fall, dropping at the time of this post. And this post was this morning. Yeah. Or yesterday, it looks like. Really irrelevant. They're tying in Turkey to this as well. After Italy's warning that the ECB had to keep QE going or the entire bond market will collapse, forcing the breakup of the EU, has finally made many of the dollar haters start to realize that indeed Draghi has destroyed the European economy and bond market. Well, all central banks have destroyed all the economies. Just which one is going to go to the bottom first? That's the problem we're in. Everybody is so tied into central bank debt that it's just a matter of who gets collapsed first. Turkey appears to have gone to Qatar asking for financial help, and they were turned away. The author has warned that we are entering the crisis phase. Obviously, the WEC, what is the WEC? The WEC is going to probably be one of the most interesting and challenging sessions so far. Our worst nightmares are coming alive, and far too many people in government are still refusing to face reality. Yeah, they continue to throw the people under the bus in all these different economies. Thanks for the link, M. Long. He put it in the side chat there. I'll put it in the description box for future reference. But as he tied it, like he said here, Turkey has already went outside the EU to try to get support. It's not going well for anybody. And everybody, Gregory Mannarino did a really good video yesterday. I shared it on the G Plus concerning this, especially the EU situation where the Greek bailouts, all these different problems that were not taken care of, they were made worse. They kicked the can down the road once again for too long, and it's coming back once again. And the only way they can try to stop it is to create more debt. How much debt can the systems really sustain? That is that's the basic bottom line, and it's going to happen here too. Wes S., you can't see backwoods in the side chat? Yeah, Google is definitely messing with things. And like we documented the other day, people couldn't see you the other morning, but you were fine on my end and whatnot. Very interesting. But they said they could see you in the after it processed. Rooster Cogburn commented the other day, Wes, that he could see you when he watched the replay that you were in the side chat, but he couldn't see you when we were live. It's a very interesting glitch that YouTube has going. Conspiracy theory or not. Yeah, ZPD silver's on fire sale, right? Does not make sense. Exactly. But back the truck up if you get a chance. But like I've often hypothesized, or my opinion of it, get silver when you can. Precious metals, no doubt. But there will be a point in time where silver will probably be basically $1. It'll be almost at zero. It won't go to zero, but it'll be so cheap. It'll be like people will be trying to ditch it because they think it's done. The situation is going to be so upside down in the paper markets because they're just trading paper, not real silver or gold or copper or any of these other commodities that they produce more paper certificates for versus what they actually physically exist. That having it in your hand is going to be much more valuable in the long. After that's over, the pain is going to be very great to sit there and watch your silver go down to $2 or whatever it ends up being at the bottom as they transition all this paper mess out of the system. And then on the other side, it comes out much stronger. What that's valued at, I don't know, but it'll still be better to have physical silver after the fact than do not denominate in dollars is what my advice is, or my mindset is. I have X amount of ounces of silver. That's all I need to know. It doesn't matter how much they're worth in dollars because I'm looking for what they're going to be worth after the dollar's done, I guess you'd say. And Crom notes that the American dollar is backed by the full force of the military. True that. But the dollar is used by the problem with the currency is that it is used in many different transactions. When those transactions cease to happen overseas, when people stop using it overseas and all that is dollars come back to the US, it's the real life inflation that happens in that, the inflationary process that goes through, that's going to make it worth less and less in reality to buy with. Yeah, we can prop up the dollar with military force to make people use it like we did with the oil trade, but in the end it can only be worth so much as more and more of it takes more and more of it to buy fewer and fewer things, if that makes sense. You can't, in Backwoods Law, you can't see Wes S. You couldn't see him last night. That is just bizarre. That is bizarre, is it not? Maybe it's just between you two. Maybe you got each other blocked. You don't know it. But Google does have some issues, as we've all documented in the past. So that's kind of the rundown, some of the situations out there, folks. Still got firefighters fighting lots of fires out here out west, but the situation does seem to be getting a little bit better with some of that stuff under control. Hey, Aaron, we need silver to make colloidal silver. Yeah, and that'll be very useful, especially when you're talking about, like we were talking about in the Venezuela example, of lack of medical care and stuff. Help you to prevent some of those diseases, help keep things at bay, your immune system and whatnot. High Pocket's with us. Good morning, High Pocket. Nice and cool in Utah, right? Economics really confuses you. Well, I think it's designed to confuse people. Mostly because the governments are in control of so much economically that they're not supposed to be. So it makes it confusing. And we're like right on cue here. Measles outbreak in 21 states, right on the top of the Drudge. Looks like refreshed this morning. And again, while not catastrophic, measles has put you down and ineffective for a long period of time and has a really harsh effect on the young and the elderly, including death, obviously. But large outbreaks of this coming back. There's 107 people from 21 states contracting measles, including all these states, including Nevada, which is not unusual. There's so much movement around the country now that things. The last outbreak of 2015. Anyway, they probably don't know where. But yeah, measles, large outbreak, 21 states. Maybe we're in the midst of our own collapse. We don't even know it yet. Backwoods, I doubt if you've blocked Wes. That was kind of a joke. But yeah, he can't see you either, he said. High pockets using colloidal silver. Nice. Treat some infections. Aaron's uses colloidal. ZPD Survival uses a colloidal nasal mist. Yeah, it's very useful. Very useful treatment method, preventative measures, I guess you'd call it. Walter Davis, any word of the Clintons dying of measles? Yes, Walter, we must keep the hope alive. Nope, I haven't heard of that. I don't think we will, unfortunately. I don't know if Wes is watching the side chat Backwoods. He said he was kind of listening more than reading, but maybe he'll check in with us and see your comment. He might have to refresh too if you've done that. You'd have to refresh might have to close his browser, new one, to get that process through if you actually had that. All right, run down to this morning. We got to get out of here. Thanks for checking us. Thanks, Tim Long, for the link. Y'all have a good day. Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see you back in here on Friday morning. Remember, go check out. We got the subscriber channel supporter giveaway. Go check that out on the channel. Get your comments in. Let me know how to improve the channel. What we can do better. But thanks for coming in, folks. Have a good day. Live free.